Alright, so this video is already going to be super long, so I'm going to make this intro as short as possible, but essentially in this video I'm going to be describing almost every single aspect of what I would like to see in a Nintendo versus Marvel fighting game. So let's just go ahead and let's get right into this. I feel like this first character's inclusion is kind of obvious, but up first I have Mario from the Super Mario series. For the costume that you just naturally get with the game, I have Fire Mario, but as an unlockable costume I've also got Metal Mario. Now for his big final like smash like movement or his big like finisher, I think Mega Mario from the new Super Mario Bros. Series is the clear way to go. Obviously Mario just becomes like a giant and steps on the competitor. So I think that that would be a really fun one. I wanted to kind of include what their like victory pose could be, or like what would happen if you win as the character. Maybe it plays a little animation. And for Mario, I think it would just do the Mario 64 "You Got a Star" animation. I think that one would be really fun. So yeah, Mario would be the first character. For his moves, I think it would be very similar to Smash Brothers. I think he would just shoot a fireball. He would have a punch, a kick, maybe even use the cape from Mario 6 or from Super Mario World. I think that would be really fun, and I think Mario would be a really interesting character. Up next, I've got Luigi. As for his costumes, I think straight from the start you would have the Ice Luigi costume. I think it's a really cool kind of foil to Fire Mario. And then for his unlockable costume, I've actually got Gooigi from Luigi's Mansion 3 on the Switch. For his big finisher move, I have the Poltergust 4000. If you don't know what that is, it is actually a kart in Mario Kart DS. It looks like the Poltergust from the Luigi's Mansion series, and I think Luigi would hop in that car and maybe like just run over the competition. I think it'd be really fun. And for his big final, kind of like Mario, I think it would be his victory pose from the original Luigi's Mansion, where you find a key and he looks excited about it. And his moveset, I would want to be very heavily featured from the Luigi's Mansion series. I want him to use the Poltergust in almost all of his attacks. Up next, we have Princess Peach herself. I think she would be a very, very fun character, and I wanted to include a female Mario character, and I think that she was the clear route to go. For her costumes, I have Fire Peach. Again, goes really well with Fire Mario. And I've also got the like Daisy color swap for her other costume, the unlockable one. It would be very similar to like in the Smash Bros. Series, how she has the Peach or she has Daisy's dress and it changes her hair color. For her big finisher move, I have Peach's birthday cake from Super Mario or New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Obviously, this is how the Koopalings kidnap her in that game, and I think it would be a really, really fun finisher to just drop that massive cake on top of your enemy. And for her little victory pose, this was a little bit harder to come up with, but I do think to use this as a way to reference Toad. I think a couple of Toads, maybe even Toadsworth, coming out just to support her or like applaud for her would be a really, really cool little victory pose and something unique from a lot of the other characters. And lastly, for her just moveset, I think it would, a lot of it, I think they should use the umbrella. I think that that's a very iconic, tool for Peach to use in battle that in some other fighting games like Super Smash Bros. They don't really do. So I think that would be really fun and something unique for her compared to the other characters. Bowser was a little bit of a harder character to really design and come up with how I would want him to work, but for his first costume, I think it would be Dry Bowser, and for the unlockable costume, I think it would be Bowser's Fury Bowser. These are two very different characters from different games, and I think that that'd be really cool to see all the difference. For his big final finishing move, it would have to be the Koopalings. I think all the Koopalings would come in the clown car, jump out and attack the enemy, hop back in the clown car, and speed off. I think it would be really funny, and it's a way to get all the Koopalings, and probably also Bowser Jr. in the game. For his moveset, I think it would actually be a lot of it driven from like the very early Mario games. I think Bowser would shoot fireballs. Maybe he could throw those hammers like he does in the like original Super Mario Brothers. And for his victory pose at the end of the game, very similar to Peach where the Toads come out. I think for him, a bunch of dry bones could come out and like support him. I think that would be really fun. So Donkey Kong is the first character that I think is going to have like a really interesting way that he plays. I think that he would not just be one character, but would in fact play kind of like he does in the Donkey Kong Country series, where we have Donkey Kong with Diddy Kong on his back, and they work as kind of a duo. For his different costumes, I have Fire Donkey Kong. We saw this in the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I think it's a really fun and unique design for the character that we've never seen before. And I don't have a lot of references to the movie, so that's what we're going to go. A movie reference, we have Fire Donkey Kong as the costume it comes with, but as an unlockable costume, we have Funky Kong with Dixie Kong on his back. They play the exact same as Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, except it is Funky Kong and Dixie Kong. And for his big final finisher attack, we have the Donkey Kongas. I really liked that in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and I hate that they haven't really brought it back in Ultimate. So I do like that. And for his finisher attack, I think this one's not that exciting, but what I would actually end up doing with this is I would reference the Punch-Out game on the Wii and have Donkey Kong with like his boxing gloves kind of doing just a cool pose at the end with Diddy Kong on his back, obviously. Maybe Diddy Kong even has his peanut gun, you know, in the final victory scene. Now that we're kind of moving out of the Mario series and into the Zelda series, I think it was a little bit harder for me. Let me put it like that, because each different Zelda game is very unique. When each Mario game, while yes they do have a lot of features that are different, referencing Fire Mario, you could kind of be referencing like 18 different Mario games. But with a character like Link, that's not as easy to do. With that being said, for his whenever you just naturally pick Link, his design, I want it to look a lot like Hyrule Warriors, but then I also want his main outfit change that you can make to be the Breath of the Wild outfit, but also I want a Dark Link variant as the unlockable costume. I think that that's a really cool design they don't do a lot. Now, I also really struggled with Link's final move, but I think what it would have to be as his big finisher would have to be the moon from Majora's Mask crashing into the stage and obviously hurting the opponent. And finally, his like victory pose would be the item found pose from like the original Zelda game. Like whenever you pick up anything, the way he holds it over his head, I think that would be really fun. Maybe he's holding up like the Triforce or something cool like that. Zelda, in a lot of ways, is very similar to Link in this game, although she does play a little bit differently, using more magic in her attacks instead of her sword, or instead of a sword. Her design and her finisher and her final move are very similar to Link. Her main outfit in the game is based off of Hyrule Warriors. Then her easiest to swap to is going to be a Skyward Sword outfit, and then her unlockable outfit will be a Breath of the Wild outfit. Her finisher is just her becoming Sheik and attacking for a few minutes. I know that's not that interesting, but I really had a hard time coming up with a really interesting final finisher for Zelda. So if you have a better one, definitely leave it in the comments below. I'd love to read some different suggestions for any of these. And then her victory screen is the exact same as Link's. It's item found. She holds up a part of the Triforce. That's all that I've really got for her. She was, like I said, she was one of the harder characters to really figure out, but I did definitely want her to be included. Up next, we've actually got Kirby from the Kirby series. For his first costume, the one that you just naturally get in the game, I have Waddle Dee. They look similar enough, and I feel like they could play similar enough without looking too weird that I'm going to put them together. And then also, we have, as the unlockable costume, we have the Game Boy Color. So it's just kind of like a greenish, black and white color Kirby. And then for his big final finisher, this is a very weird one, but it's one of my favorite Kirby games, so it's what I wanted to reference. We have the big epic yarn Kirby tank comes in and just kind of attacks. I think that'd be really fun. And obviously, his little victory pose would be the little dance that Kirby always does when he's like winning a level and stuff. Up next, I've got Samus from the Metroid series. For the first costume that you can switch to, I've got Dark Samus. And then for the unlockable costume, I've actually got Zero Suit Samus. For the big finisher attack, I've got a Metroid just kind of swarms in, or a couple Metroids swarm in and attack the enemy. Nothing too crazy, but it was kind of hard to come up with a big finisher for Samus. Obviously, Samus is attacked, so we'll all be using like projectiles and stuff like that. And then it was really hard to come up with a victory pose for Samus as well. So I think if you're using just Samus or Dark Samus, just the helmet lifts up and you see Zero Suit Samus's head. And if you use Zero Suit, maybe she just has a very cool pose. And that's all that I could really come up with for her specifically. Up next, we have Pikachu. For his first costume, we have Detective Pikachu. This is obviously based on the game Detective Pikachu and the film. And then we also have, for his unlockable costume, we have a Mimikyu costume, which is in Pokemon Go. Obviously, if we're referencing Pokemon, I want to get as many different Pokemon games and series referenced as possible. And Mimikyu, because Gen 1 is so heavily focused in this particular game, you'll see what I do with Pokemon later on, and we'll talk about it later in the video more so. But because Gen 1 so heavily referenced, I wanted him to have some more modern costumes. And then his big final finisher is Gigantamax, just having very similar to Mario's big finisher, where it just is a giant Pikachu kind of steps on the enemy. I think is really fun. And then for his victory pose, we have Surfing Pikachu. This is something that's been referenced a ton in the Pokemon series, and it's just a cool little Easter egg. After that, we've actually got Gengar. So his costumes we have is like he's colored like he's the Mega Shiny version for his first costume. So he's not his design doesn't change other than the fact of his color scheme, but he is colored based off of the Mega Shiny version. Along with that, we have him in a party hat because I don't know, I thought that was kind of goofy and funny, and that's obviously a fun little unlockable costume. For his big, like, final finisher, we have a swarm of Ghastlies and probably also some Haunters come in and attack the opponent. Just a swarm of them I think would be really fun. And with that being said, I also think a couple of Ghastlies, like, supporting him, very similar to how I did with Peach and Bowser earlier, is how his, like, victory pose would look. And the last Pokemon, for right now at least, is Charizard. His different, like, costumes, Mega Charizard X would be the costume that you get from the start, but then also, as the unlockable, there is Mega Charizard Y. His big final smash move would be, Blastoise and Venusaur both come in and actually help him out. Kind of like in Smash Bros. Brawl, the way all three Pokemon come together in for Pokemon Trainer's Final Smash. It would be a lot like that, except they're all fully evolved, powerful, and attacking the opponent. And for his little victory animation, if you've seen the Pokemon anime, you know how Charizard doesn't listen to Ash and lays down and is kind of stubborn. That pose, you see it on screen right now, that is his victory animation. Up next, I have the Inkling. I think their main outfit would be a yellow color scheme, representing the newest Splatoon game. Meanwhile, their color swaps or other costumes would be a orange and blue outfit, because those much more represent the original Splatoon. Their big finisher attack, I have the Kraken. I think that one's kind of self-explanatory. For their moveset, I think it just uses a couple different weapons from the game. I think the Paint Roller would need to be included somehow. And then for their like victory pose, I have the Squid Sisters. For Tom Nook, I've got his outfits just being a couple different outfits. I've got his main outfit being from New Horizons, then I've got an outfit from like City Folk, and then I've got an outfit from New Leaf. I don't know why I couldn't think of the name. And then for his like finisher move, it's very similar to Villager's move in Smash Bros. They build a little house around him. I think that that's a fun idea. And then his like victory pose is he gets support from his nephews. Why can I not think of their name? Is it Timmy and Tommy? I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but yes, and I think Tom Nook could be an interesting character, and I think he represents Animal Crossing really well. Up next, we have Isabelle. Very similar to Tom Nook, her outfits represent the different Animal Crossing games, and we have different outfits for different ones, but the main outfit would be from New Horizons. Along with that, her big finisher attack would be the bees. I think that's a really fun element of the Animal Crossing games, and kind of a funny element. I think it'd be fun to see in this game. And then the airport from New Horizons would be her victory pose. I like the idea of her getting on one of the planes and taking off, and you can just kind of see her, you know, waving as she flies away back to whatever Animal Crossing village or home she's going back to. Up next, we have Olimar from the Pikmin series. For his different costumes, I've got Alf and Brittany, both as playable characters, very similar to how they do him in Smash Brothers. For his big finisher attack, I've got a swarm of Pikmin coming in and attacking. I think that that's kind of the most obvious and kind of fun, just to find a way to incorporate just a ton of Pikmin. And then for his like victory pose, it's very similar to actually what I did for Isabelle. I like the idea of him getting on the little rocket ship like he does at the end of each day in the Pikmin games and just kind of flying off. You see him maybe waving and just celebrating his victory that way. After that, I have Fox from the Star Fox series. I think his main outfit would just be similar to his most recent appearance, Zero. I think that's, say what you will about the game, I think it's a very fun design. With that being said, his different costumes, I've got a wolf color swap because I wanted to include some more Star Fox characters, but there just really wasn't room in the roster, and Star Fox isn't one of the most iconic Nintendo franchises at this point. After the last few games haven't been as successful as some of the older ones, but obviously the older ones were super popular. So for his other costume, his unlockable costume, I've got an original like Star Fox box art design look for him. For his big finisher, obviously he's got to do some kind of barrel roll, and then his support or his like victory pose has all of the Star Fox crew kind of supporting him and cheering him on after his victory. I really struggled with picking out a Fire Emblem character and how many that I wanted to include, but what I decided is I was just going to include one that I felt really represents the whole series to the best that I could do in one character, because if not, I was going to end up having 4 or 5 Fire Emblem characters, and I just don't know if the series, at least in a crossover fighting game, I don't think 5 Fire Emblem characters really represents Nintendo as a whole, as well as maybe including an extra Mario character or an extra Pokemon character. With that being said, I've included Robin. For his main 2 costumes, I have him as the male Robin and then the female Robin. It's very similar to how they did in Super Smash Bros. And then for his unlockable costume, I have Ike, because I felt like Ike was one of the more popular ones from the Smash Bros. Series, and a lot of people would want to play as him. With that being said, their not victory pose, their big like final attack is Ike's Smash Brothers Final Smash, where he sends them up to the top of the stage, just repeatedly attacks them and then throws them back down. And then for their victory pose, I actually pretty much took again from Smash Brothers and used Chrom, giving support to Robin, and it also includes another Fire Emblem character in that way. So this is kind of the way I've decided to represent the Fire Emblem series as a whole, is through Robin. Alright, so this is a character I know very little about. So Shulk is a character I felt belonged in this game, but like I said, I know very little about him. For his like different outfits, I have Pyra, because I feel like their playstyle could be similar enough to work, and then also Shirtless Shulk, because I thought that one was kind of funny in Super Smash Brothers. And then I've got Goldface as his like final big attack. I think Goldface is a boss fight. I was looking at videos and it looked kind of interesting, so I said, you know what? I think that could be used somehow to be kind of fun. And then his victory pose, we have to have the I'm really feeling it. Like I said, I haven't played the Xenoblade series, but it's very clearly a big Nintendo staple at this point, so I felt like it really would need to be represented in some way in this game. For Pit, the main outfit is obviously Dark Pit, and then the unlockable outfit, I actually referenced the Subspace Player 2 Pit outfit. I'm sure it's probably referencing something more, but very similar to with Shulk. I actually haven't played the newest Kid Icarus game. I've only played the original, so I'm not 100% what the gold outfit is referencing, but that's what I went with. Then with a Palutena being the big final finisher, similar to how it was in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And then for the victory pose, I'm referencing the I'm finished line from the original Kid Icarus game. I think that's kind of funny. I don't know how they could really reference it, but I think it could be done and be pretty cool, maybe even a little bit interesting. I don't know, something very different than what they've done with the character in Smash Brothers. When it comes to Marvel, I feel like the first character is pretty obvious, and it has to be Spider-Man. His main costume, although this might be a little controversial, I would want it to be based off of Far From Home. I really like the way the costume looked in Far From Home with the red and the black. I think it looks really nice. For his other costumes, for his main costume swap, I would actually have the Future Foundation outfit, one of my personal favorite Spider-Man outfits, along with the PS4 outfit and the Far From Home outfit. But either way, getting back to the main point, his unlockable outfit would be the Symbiote outfit. Then I would have an Incursion as his big final finisher. And for his victory pose, it's gotta be Pizza Time. Up next, I feel like it's kind of obvious, it has to be Iron Man. For his different outfits, I would want his main his main outfit that you can switch to be War Machine based, and then his other outfit to actually be Iron Patriot. His big final finisher move would have to be Hulkbuster. Specifically like how it is used in Avengers Age of Ultron. And then I really had a hard time with Iron Man's like victory pose, but what I think it would need to be is just a really cool transition of him taking off the suit to just be Tony Stark underneath. Up next, I've got Captain America. For his different outfits, one of them would have to be the Winter Soldier outfit. I feel like that's one of his most popular outfits in the MCU, so that's the one we're going with. And then also I've got like a Hydra outfit. I feel like that's a kind of weird and interesting storyline. So I think that would be a really cool and unlockable outfit. Then obviously Mjolnir has to be his big final finisher, one of the biggest moments for Captain America within the MCU, and his victory pose would have to be Captain America on his motorcycle. The MCU didn't use this a ton, but I think it's a really cool victory pose and one that we might see used on some other characters later. Thor was a character that was kind of interesting to come up with. Obviously, Mjolnir I gave to Captain America for his final move, so in this game, Thor is going to use Stormbreaker no matter which costume you're using. But his three costumes I have, the main one is kind of based on like the original Avengers design, and the MCU design overall. Then we have an Infinity War design, and then for the unlockable, we have a comic accurate outfit. His big final finisher, I actually have the Screaming Goats carrying his like ship from Thor: Love and Thunder. I think that would be a really funny idea, and he just kind of crashes into the stage. And then for his victory pose, he's got to have support from Korg. I needed to include Korg somewhere in this game because I do think he's a really fun character. Up next, I've got the Incredible Hulk. For his different costumes, I have the Red Hulk, and then as an unlockable costume, I have the Gray Hulk. For his big final finisher move, it's got to be the Loki scene from the original Avengers. He's got to pick up the enemy and sling them around just like he did with Loki. And then for his victory pose, this was a little bit of a harder one to come up with, but I think it would just be cool if, very similar to how Iron Man works, he just transforms into Bruce Banner. And that's the only way you would really include Bruce Banner. Kind of like how I talked about with the Nintendo characters, I think Hulk's moves would just be him punching, almost similar to Bowser, but maybe less projectiles. I wanted to find somewhere to include Wanda. I think her main like costume change would be a black and white variant of her costume to kind of represent those early era sitcoms from WandaVision. And then her other outfit, I would want it to just represent Wanda before she became the Scarlet Witch within the MCU. Just kind of having her in like the generic red outfit, but not the Scarlet Witch outfit. Then I think her big final attack or final smash should kind of represent the Multiverse of Madness scene featuring Professor X, where it would just kind of be a white void and she attacks the enemy. And then her victory pose, I would want to use this as a way to include Vision within the game. Just kind of Vision supporting her. You could maybe even do like a theme song recreation kind of idea, like from WandaVision. For Black Panther, I would want his main like costume variation to be the Killmonger outfit, and then the other unlockable outfit to actually be a comic accurate outfit. His big final attack, I would want it to be a huge army from Wakanda running out and attacking the enemy. And then obviously, I feel like it would have to be for his victory pose, he has to sit up on a throne and just be powerful, maybe even take off his mask. For the Wasp, I think her main outfit would be based off of Hope Van Dyne, a very comic accurate outfit. And then we would have Janet Van Dyne as her main color outfit, the red. And then for the unlockable, we would have a suit kind of based off of Cassie Lang. For the big finisher, we obviously would have Giant Man come and help. And then I think for the victory pose, it would be a bunch of ants coming in to kind of support her. Now we're moving out of the main Avengers and getting into the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now obviously I couldn't include every single member, so I had to kind of limit which ones I chose, but I think the three that I decided to go with represent the entire series fairly well. Up first I've got Star-Lord. For his different costumes, I've got a comic accurate outfit and then his prison outfit from the original Guardians of the Galaxy film. For his big final finisher, I kind of went from the Guardians of the Galaxy video game, and I really like whenever they kind of do their little team huddle and then a song starts to play and they all attack as a team, more powerful. So I went with that, and then obviously his victory pose has to be him dancing around because he's Star-Lord. Up next we have Rocket Raccoon, my personal favorite of the Guardians. For his main outfit, it would just kind of be his generic, more modern outfit. But then for his costume change, I have the orange outfit from the original Guardians film, and then his prison outfit, just like Star-Lord had. For his big final finisher, he would have Groot come in and help him, and then the Milano, him kind of flying it off the screen, would be his like victory pose. And this last choice might be a little controversial, but I decided to go with Nebula. I think her main outfit would be a very MCU related outfit, then her first costume change would be the comic outfit, and then her unlockable would be the in-game outfit. And both her big final attack as well as her victory pose would both be Gamora supporting her. Now we're going to move on from the Guardians and go into some other characters, and up next we have Wolverine. For his different costumes, I have his just generic comic book outfit, and then for his first character swap we have the Logan outfit, and then we also have a blue variant. His big final finisher would be the X-Men all coming to help him, and then very similar to Captain America earlier, his victory pose would be him driving off on a motorcycle. Obviously, he had to show up. We've got Deadpool next. I think his different costumes would be an X-Force gray outfit and then a pink outfit. And his big final finisher is going to be the Chimichanga truck. I feel like that's something that goes really well with Deadpool. It's kind of what he's known for. And similar to this Funko Pop design that I chose, I think it would look something like that, and he would just kind of drive it across the screen. And then finally, for his victory pose, somehow, someway, he has to break the fourth wall. I like the idea of maybe him even quoting like Reggie Fils-Aimé. I think that's something that's funny that could get a lot of people's attention. If not, maybe, I don't know, let him, I don't know, make fun of the Minions because of the Mario movie or something along those lines. Then we've got Reed Richards. For his different costumes, I want him to have a Future Foundation outfit as well as a more comic accurate outfit. And then we get into his big finisher, which I think would be getting help from Susan Storm. I didn't include her in the game. There wasn't enough rosters, and I felt like Reed Richards was a overall better representation for the Fantastic Four, so I went with him. But then also, I think his big victory pose would have to be the little teapot dance from the Lego game. I didn't know the little teapot dance actually existed until researching for this video, and I really, really liked that, so we're going to put that in the game. That's what we're going with. One of my absolute favorite Marvel characters is Ben Grimm's The Thing, so I obviously had to put him in the game. For his different outfits, we have a Future Foundation outfit, as well as his like trench coat and hat that he always wears whenever he's trying to like blend into society. So I went with that outfit as well as his unlockable. For his big finisher, he would get help from Johnny Storm. That way, we get all four of the Fantastic Four members represented in some way in this game. And then finally, his support is Clobbering Time. I think it would just kind of be like how Shulk's was. I think he would just say it's Clobbering Time, and that would be fun and interesting and a nice addition to the cast. Daredevil is a kind of interesting character that I decided to put into the game. For his main costume that he switches into, it'll be the Netflix all-black outfit, and then for his unlockable outfit, I'm going to go with the yellow. I'm not a huge fan of the yellow, but it's super popular, so I think it's likely they would use it. For his big finisher, I actually want to do something a little shocking. I think we would actually roll a little cutscene when he uses his like final attack into a courtroom where we get to see Matt Murdock actually suing the person who you're currently fighting. I think it'd be kind of a fun way of implementing some of the like Matt Murdock side of the Daredevil character. And then finally, for his victory pose, I think maybe Elektra could come and support him. Up next, we've got Loki. For his different outfits, we've got Sylvie, as well as the like classic Loki from the Loki series. Then for his big final finisher, I don't really know what it was called, but like the big smoky purple dragon from the Loki series. I actually can't remember what his name was at the moment, but that is what I would like to see as his big finisher. And then also, I think his like little victory pose could reference the Tesseract and specifically the time travel scene from Endgame. I think that could be fun and something a little bit different to make him unique from the other characters on the roster. One of my favorite villains in all of Marvel is Dr. Octopus, so I feel like we had to go with that. With that being said, I think his different outfits would be based off of the PS4 game, and then also a more comic accurate outfit. His big final finisher, I would want him to call on the entirety of the Sinister Six to attack your enemy. And then finally, I know it's kind of a bit of a meme answer, but so is Pizza Time. We're going to go with the power of the sun in the palm of my hands as his big final victory pose. It's a little bit of a joke character, but what fighting game doesn't have a couple of joke characters within the mix? MODOK is the one that I've went with. I think his main outfit would just kind of be a generic mix of all the different MODOK outfits, but then his different costumes would be based off of the Avengers game and then also the MODOK TV series. His big final finisher would be calling on the Abomination for help, which I think could be really interesting, but also kind of work similar to Hulk's final smash. I guess is what you would call it, or like his big final finisher. And then his support would be a bunch of AIM agents coming out and kind of applauding him. Kind of a funny, goofy character, but I think you need a couple of those. And of course, you can't have a Marvel game of any kind without having Venom as a playable character. So we've got Venom, his different outfits would be Carnage, and then also a blue Venom. Then we would have a ton of symbiotes just attacking the stage for his big finisher. And very similar to Hulk actually, for his victory pose, we would see him kind of, the symbiote come off and we would just see Eddie Brock underneath. I think it'd be very cool. He's actually one of the cooler characters in the game. I don't think he's the most interesting with the references and things that it's pulling from the source material, but I do think he would be very cool and fun. And for our first unlockable character, I've got King Dedede. For his different costumes, I've got masked DDD as well as a black and white DDD that kind of resembles the Game Boy era. Then I've got Meta Knight as his big finisher, and for his little victory pose, I think it'd be funny if he gets a bunch of support from like a swarm of Waddle Dees. Up next, I've got Ridley. For his different outfits, I've got Neo Ridley and then also Meta Ridley. His big, like, final move, I'm actually taking directly from Smash Brothers. I don't think I could come up with anything cooler than what they did for him. I think he has one of the best final smashes in the game, at least appearance-wise. And then for his victory pose, I've went from Super Metroid, the box art, the kind of pose, that attack pose that he's in. That's the one that I would want him to kind of get into for his victory pose. After that, I've got Piplup. I think Piplup would be a really good choice because it's a more modern Pokemon. Although it's not the most modern Pokemon we'll see in this video, it is a lot more modern than all of the Pokemon that are initially in the game, which are like the 3 Gen 1 Pokemon. His different outfits would be a shiny Piplup, and then the unlockable would be Piplup wearing Dawn's hat. After that, for his victory, or not his victory pose, but for his like big final finisher, just like with Charizard, I want it to be Turtwig and Chimchar coming in to help him, all 3 of them working as a team, and then his victory pose would be evolving into Prinplup. For Ness, his main costume would be a Ninten outfit, and his unlockable costume would be a Lucas color palette kind of change. For his big final finisher, I would want to reference the Subspace Emissary, having that giant statue of Porky kind of come in and attack, because that is a really iconic moment from Subspace. And then for his victory pose, we've got Mr. Saturn coming to give him some support. And finally, I've got one of my personal favorites, King Boo. For his first costume, he just has the Mario Kart, more generic King Boo look. But then for his unlockable, we've got Big Boo from Mario 64, where he doesn't have a crown. For his big final finisher, obviously he would have to trap the opponent in a painting, as he does in the Luigi's Mansion series. And then we have for his like victory pose, a bunch of support from a bunch of different ghosts. And for the first Marvel unlockable, we've got Quicksilver. For his different outfits, I would want to reference the X-Men outfit, as well as referencing his Halloween outfit from the episode of WandaVision. For his big final finisher, obviously the entire stage would have to slow down as he goes super fast, going through the stage, messing with some stuff, kind of like he did in X-Men Days of Future Past. And then finally, for his victory pose, he's got to say you didn't see that coming. I think that's his most iconic, like, victory pose. Up next, I've got Howard the Duck. For his first costume, I have a very comic accurate outfit, and for his other costume, his unlockable one, it's more of an MCU variant. For his big, like, final attack, I would want Cosmo to come in and help him, and very similar to that for his victory pose, I would also want Cosmo the dog to come out and help him. For Namor, I think his main costume change would be his more comic accurate outfit, and then once again, for his unlockable, I would want an MCU outfit. For his big final attack, I would want him to actually use a whale, maybe right on the back of the whale, and just kind of crash into the stage, kind of like that Funko Pop design. And then for his big victory pose, I think his army would come out to support him. Up next, I've got Miss Marvel. Her main costume change would be a comic accurate outfit, referencing her older design, and then for her unlockable costume, it would be based on the Avengers game. For both her big final attack as well as her victory pose, Captain Marvel would obviously come in to help or to support her, because these two characters, especially in the MCU, are very connected. And finally, we have Thanos. For his first costume change, we have his farmer outfit, and then for his unlockable costume change, we have just his generic outfit without the helmet, kind of how he looked like in Infinity War. After that, his big final finisher has obviously got to be the snap, and then for his victory pose, the children of Thanos all come in to support him. Now I'd like to take a few moments to talk about some of the stages I would like to see in the game. Particularly how they would work and what games they would be themed after. So I'm thinking that the game itself would have, from the start, 12 different stages. And each of the stages would play pretty much the same. There's one solid platform and there's no way to fall off the edges. There's no obstacles, the stage doesn't necessarily move, and the main feature of the stage is the stuff going on in the background. I think that makes it the most simple, and I think that one of the biggest problems with Smash Brothers as a series is that there's way too much going on in the background. I like that for a party game, but I want this to be an actual fighting game. So with that being said, the first stage would be a Mushroom Kingdom stage, mainly based off of the new Super Mario Bros. Series. I would want there to be music from the series in the background, some enemies way back in the background that you can't really interact with, but you can see them, maybe some Goombas, some Koopas, stuff like that going on, and I think it could be a pretty fun stage. Up next, I would like to see a Luigi's Mansion stage. I think Luigi's Mansion is a really fun series, one of my favorite series that Nintendo has. You could see the mansion in the background, maybe a couple cameos from some Ghost and even Professor Egad. I think it could be fun. Up next, Bowser's Castle, which is the final Mario stage that I would want to see. I would want it to be based off of the Mario Kart Bowser's Castle tracks. Obviously, the music in the background I'd want to be themed after the different New Super Mario Brothers, DS, maybe even the Mario World Bowser's theme. I think it'd be really fun, and I think there's a lot of cool things you could do with it. Maybe even include Bowser Jr. somewhere in the background. Up next, I've got Hyrule. I wanted a Zelda stage. I really think it should be kind of similar to the one from Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, based on Breath of the Wild. I think that's a really fun stage. Have Zelda music in the background and just a really cool level. Up next, I've got Pallet Town from the Pokemon series. And one thing about this stage is I would want a ton of different Pokemon to be in the background. A few specific ones that I would really like to see are Meowth. I think Jigglypuff. We haven't included Jigglypuff anywhere in this game, so Jigglypuff. And then a couple of my favorite Pokemon like Trubbish, Bronzong, Pignite. Also maybe some starters. Sobble I think would be a really cool one to include. And maybe even a couple others. But these are some definite ones that I think would be pretty cool to be there. Up next I've got Inkopolis from Splatoon. For the Marvel side, Avengers Tower would be really cool. Nowhere would also be a cool one. Titan. I think Titan would be really cool, especially since it would kind of reference Infinity War. Volmir, one of the coolest scenes in Infinity War, would have to have some kind of stage with Red Skull in the background. Then you get Wakanda and the Quantum Realm. Now, for single player in this game, I would want there to be a big story mode campaign, kind of like the Subspace Emissary, where there's cutscenes and you see all the different characters interact with each other. And maybe if this video does well, I'll do a sequel video that kind of talks about how every single character would interact with each other and what the story would be. But another mode I would want would be a kind of boss fight mode, where you fight 3 bosses back to back, and if you do so, whatever character you're playing as, you get some kind of trophy that represents that series. And here in a moment, I'll talk about all the different trophies for each character, but before we do that, I wanted to talk about the different villains that you could fight. There's going to be 10, and you get a random variation of 3 each time you play this mode. But I think Kamek, Ultron, Ganondorf, Ronin, Mewtwo, Doctor Doom, an Octoling, Mystique, King K. Rool, and Juggernaut. I think all of these villains would be really great choices to kind of rotate between, just to kind of make it interesting, and I think there's some pretty iconic villains as well. So every time you beat this particular mode with a different character, you would unlock a trophy, and these trophies have something to do with the character that you beat it with. So obviously there's going to be 60 different trophies in the game, because there's 60 characters total, but you haven't seen all the characters yet at this point in the video. So right now we're going to cover the first 50 of these, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. For Mario, you get a Baby Yoshi trophy. For Luigi, you get a Polterpup trophy. For Peach, you get a Captain Toad trophy. For Bowser, you get a Shy Guy trophy. For Donkey Kong, you get a Cranky Kong trophy. For Link, you get a Skull Kid. For Zelda, you get Navi. For Kirby, you get Prince Pluff. For Samus, you get a Metroid Dread robot. For Pikachu, you get Pichu. For Gengar, you get Drifbloom. For Charizard, you get Oshawott. For Inkling, you get Judd. For Tom Nook, you get KK Slider. For Isabelle, you get Blathers. For Olimar, you get a Rock Pikmin. For Fox, you get General Pepper. For Robin, you get Marth. For Shulk, you get Rex. And for Pit, you get Mono Eye. Then for the unlockables, you get, for King Dedede, you get Bandana D. For Ridley, you get Mother Brain. For Piplup, you get Score Bunny. For Ness, you get Mr. Saturn. And for King Boo, you get a Shroob. Now with all of these, I tried to pick some more obscure characters because just like within Smash Brothers, whenever you would get trophies, I think it's fun to just be able to learn about these more obscure characters, read up on them, and just kind of get a little bit of their history. And I did the same thing with Marvel, which I guess we'll get into right now. For Spider-Man, I've got Miles. For Iron Man, I've got Rescue. For Captain America, I've got a Winter Soldier trophy. For Thor, I've got the Mighty Thor. For Hulk, I have She-Hulk. For Wanda, I have Vision. For Black Panther, I have Okoye. For the Wasp, I have Ant-Man. For Star-Lord, I have Yondu. For Rocket, I have Lyla. For Nebula, I have Adam Warlock. For Wolverine, I've got Jean Grey. For Deadpool, I've got Jeff the Shark. For Reed Richards, I have Herbie. For Ben Grimm, I have Mole Man. For Daredevil, I have Bullseye. For Loki, I have Alligator Loki. For Dr. Octopus, I have the Lizard. For MODOK, I have the Abomination. For Venom, I have Lockjaw. For Quicksilver, I have Speed. For Howard the Duck, I have Cosmo. For Namor, I have Doctor Strange. For Miss Marvel, I have Goose. And for Thanos, I have Ebony Maw. Up first, we have what's probably the weirdest choice in the entire game, but I've got Thwackey. I think his different costumes, he would have a shiny variant, and then a variant where he has like his leaf mohawk hair sticking up. For his big final move, similarly to Charizard and Piplup, all the middle evolutions from Generation 8 would help him out, or all the starters middle evolutions would help him out as like a trio, and then for his final like victory pose, he would evolve. Now, Thwackey's not a Pokemon that I particularly love. In fact, he was not even in my top probably 100 Pokemon. But I really like the idea of representing three different generations of Pokemon, having both the first stage, second stage, and final stage of an evolutionary line, and having a fire, water, and grass type. So that's why I went with Thwackey. But to finish it off with every DLC character, I'm also going to include a stage that they could have. And for him, I have a Pokemon Snap stage that would have a bunch of random Pokemon show up. You could see Professor Oak probably show up. And I think it could be really cool and represent a side of Pokemon that we haven't yet really talked about in this video. For Little Mac, we've got quite a few things. For starters, I think he would have a frame wire outfit, as well as his hoodie as the unlockable outfit. We would also have for his big final finisher to be Gigamax, similar to his final smash, and for his victory, he would get some support from Doc Lewis. For his stage, I think actually we wouldn't reference Punch-Out, but we would actually reference ARMS, a series that I didn't really have a good spot to include anywhere in this video, but I think an ARMS stage would be a lot better than a Punch-Out stage. Wario and Waluigi as a duo character is up next. I think for their different costumes we would have a WarioWare variant for Wario as well as a Wario Man variant. Now as for Waluigi, he would probably stay the same no matter which costume you're wearing, just because Waluigi's been featured in way less games than Wario. For his big final finisher, I think Wario's got to drive over the competition on his motorcycle, and we could also reference Double Dash by doing this by having Waluigi riding on the back, maybe holding up a different Mario Kart item every time. Then for his victory pose, we obviously, or maybe not so obviously, would have reference to a Chain Chomp, another Mario mainstay that hasn't really been referenced in this video. I think Chain Chomp could kind of ride up and pose with them in the end. I think it could be pretty cool. And again, a reference to a lot of those Mario games that aren't necessarily referenced in this video. For their stage, it has to be a WarioWare stage. I think that that's a series that isn't super heavily referenced in this game obviously yet because we're just now getting Wario. I knew I wanted to include another Zelda rep, and I decided to go with Tetra. For her first outfit change, I have like a color variant that kind of references her as a stone statue, and then we also have a dark Tetra outfit. Her big final finisher, I think it would be funny if maybe the Spirit Tracks train drived into the track or into the stage, kind of running over the competition, and then also Toon Link helping her out as her victory pose. I know there's not a ton to this one. In the stage, I kind of want to just reference the pirate ship. I think that's one of the most iconic levels in the more modern Smash Bros. Games, and I think it'd be fun to see here. Alright, and to finish off the Nintendo side, I decided I wanted to do one guest star character for the Nintendo side and one guest star character for the Marvel side, and for the Nintendo side, I decided to go with Sonic the Hedgehog. For the first costume, it would be Shadow, and the other costume, the unlockable one, would be Golden Sonic or Super Sonic. His big final finisher, I want him to turn into Werehog Sonic, and then his victory pose would just be chilling out eating a chili dog. And obviously the stage has to be Green Hill Zone. I think it would be kind of cool if you saw some other Sonic characters maybe running around in the back. I think that could be interesting, probably like Tails and Knuckles and Amy, just to kind of get that vibe. I know it's very similar to the Smash Brothers stage, but I don't think you could do much better with a Sonic themed stage. Now obviously with all of these new unlockable characters, we will also need for each of them to have a trophy for whenever you play the boss battle mode. So I went ahead and I've come up with these, so let's just get right into that. For Thwackey, I've got Chespin. For Little Mac, I've got Springman. For Wario and Waluigi, I've got Ashley. For Tetra, I have the old man from the original Zelda game. And then I have, for Sonic, I have a Chao. Up first for the Marvel side, we have Storm. For her different outfits, I have a Mohawk outfit, as well as a more comic accurate outfit. Then for her big final attack, I have a huge lightning strike, and then obviously her victory pose is going to be the X-Men coming to her support. Now what I will say for her stage is it kind of feels like a generic one, but I'm going with the X-Mansion. Up next is kind of a fun one. I'm going with Spider-Ham. For his different outfits, I have a symbiote outfit, as well as an outfit where he's just out of costume as Peter Porker. And then I have his big final attack to be the big hammer that we see him use in Into the Spider-Verse. And then him calling on all of the pet Avengers, or like a group of pet Avengers kind of supporting him, is his victory pose. And then for his stage, I have the Daily Bugle. After that, we've got Luke Cage. For his different outfits, I have him in his hoodie that you see in the Netflix series, as well as a comic accurate outfit for his unlockable, and both his big final victory pose, as well as his big final attack is going to be getting help from Jessica Jones, the two of them teaming up. And then for his stage, we have Pop's Barber Shop, which I feel like is a pretty iconic location that goes with the character, especially in the Netflix series. Up next, we have Kingpin. For his first outfit, I have him in a Daredevil Season 1 outfit, and for his second outfit, I have him in the outfit that he wears in the Hawkeye series, but just basically the red shirt with the floral pattern. Then we have Bullseye to be his big final attack. He has Bullseye come in and do the dirty work for him, and then obviously his support is getting help from Vanessa. For his stage, I want Fisk Tower. I feel like that one's kind of the most obvious out of almost any of these. And just like how the Nintendo side got Sonic, I have a guest star for the Marvel side, which I'm going to go with another Disney property in Darth Vader. His different outfits, I would want him to have an Anakin outfit where he's not in the Darth Vader suit, and then also I just kind of went funny and goofy. We're going to have a pink Darth Vader outfit. I think his big final attack would be the Death Star, and then his victory pose would be getting support from the Emperor. And then his stage obviously would be a huge Imperial ship. I think that would be really fun. And one thing I want specifically about this stage is I want there to be like hologram characters in the background who are like calling into the ship. And I want those characters to be like C-3PO, R2-D2, Mando would be a cool one, and probably like Grogu. Then for the Marvel side, I have for Storm, I have Colossus. For Spider-Ham, I have Iron Mouse. For Luke Cage, I have Iron Fist. For Kingpin, I have Echo. And for Darth Vader, I have BB-8.